Last year for my birthday, my brother gave me 4 games that I was tasked to review before my next birthday. I ignored this until now. I completed all the games within a month and wrote up and recorded my thoughts in time, and here is the video a month late. If I completed this task, I don't get anything, but if I fail, I get a 50-cent game. I knew it. What we have here is 4 varied games from different generations of PlayStation. You may have forgotten about all of them, but I am here to remind you, even if you haven't asked for it. That is what being a YouTube gaming account is all about. Before I talk about this game, let's get into the intro. In Vanishing Point there are other cars on the road, but they are never driving towards you. There are no opponents to race against, and there are no 18-wheelers that can topple over and explode. Vanishing Point is a racing game from 2001 for the PS1 and Dreamcast, and it was the last game to be developed by Nottingham-based Clockwork Games. And that's a shame, because I think they were really onto something here. I feel like they wanted to achieve a high-octane arcade racer with impressive graphics, and they were very close. There are only 8 tracks here. Red Rock Canyon, Newton Expressway, Midnight Highway, Harbour View, Olympic Village, South Riviera, Alpine Pass, and Forest Fields. You can also play these tracks reversed and mirrored, and that is how they fill out the tournament mode. If you binge this game like I did and play through with all the cars, then you might get slightly bored of racing the same tracks again and again. There are some really cool details though, like planes flying by or hot air balloons and spacecrafts in the background. I was very impressed with the visuals, and whilst I'm talking about graphics, let's talk about the name of the game. According to company director Neil Cassini, the name came from the team trying to create a rendering engine that had no pop-up or fogging. He also said they had to put more corners into the game so you never see the vanishing point. I wonder if that was more of a problem for the PS1 port, but either way, they did a great job here and he was right. I didn't notice it pop up, and there is no fogging, meaning it's at least better than the original Ridge Racer. In the main tournament mode, you select a car and take place in 3 different heats where you race against the time. The roads are also occupied by other drivers. Some are on a casual Sunday drive, whereas others are trying to make your life miserable when they aren't flying off into different directions. The game is pretty challenging, as you have to come first in every heat to unlock stuff like slideshows or extra modes, and most importantly other cars. You have to be really on it to beat the times they give you, and some of the cars' handling can be horrendous. I spun out and crashed so many times before I figured out the best way to play, but taking it easy on the acceleration and making sure you make the turns okay will probably put you in 10th place. Even though I got better at this game, I don't think I ever mastered it, but luckily there is a way to cheat. Each car has 3 heats, the last of which is 3 races with 3 laps instead of 2, and there are 16 cars to choose from. The tournament mode alone is quite lengthy and difficult, but there is a glitch you can take advantage of. If you pause the game right before the race starts, you want to make sure the timer is at least less than 10 milliseconds, although sometimes you can get away with a bit more. The timer will freeze and you are free to drive however you like. It isn't always a miracle, it doesn't always seem to work. Depends on the car and the track, I think, but I wouldn't have completed the game without it. A side effect of this though is other glitches happening. The game is slightly buggy anyway. Sometimes your car or the others on the road can just start going fucking crazy. I don't know if the other issues I found were a part of the game or glitches, but I did have problems with crazy spinning, sticky walls and floaty physics that would make me lose control. There are also other modes to play, like stunt mode where you are tasked to perform stunts with specific vehicles, a rally mode where you do a single lap with no traffic on the road, and there is also a multiplayer mode where you pop balloons. I didn't get to try out multiplayer, but I imagine having more than one player dodging the traffic would be total carnage, so it's probably worth trying out. You can also workshop your cars and change how they handle. I didn't want to bother figuring this out, so I just turned everything up to 100%, but my Ford Focus wasn't going to put up with my bullshit, and instead decided to walk the course. Lastly, the music is all high tempo techno, and I think the game needed this soundtrack because it really did help keep me going through heat after heat. Kengo Master of Bushido is a game from the year 2000, so it's actually older than the PS1 game I just talked about. A spiritual successor to the Bushido Blade games, Kengo is a one-on-one fighter with sticks. You pick one of 3 fighters, pick a dojo, and practice against other students. After learning the basics, you have to fight through a bunch of dudes which will get your skill up, but your skills have a limit, so you have to train to raise your skill limit thing. Training involves striking posts, where you hit a post with a stick by pressing the button it tells you to press. Waterfall, where you stand butt naked under a cold waterfall and mash the circle button when you vibrate. Bamboo Grove, where you walk forward and cut bamboo in half. Zen Meditation, where you don't fall asleep by grinding a skateboard in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Illusion, where you press circle at the right time to blow out candles. and you later unlock helmet splitting, where you split a helmet. All this training will aid you in taking over your own dojo, then taking on other dojos. You fight their students and their sensei, and you get swords and new moves. After defeating some dojos, the students will get all pissed and come after you, and you get to fight them with real swords. These fights were a lot better than the dojo fights because they felt a lot more real. Unfortunately, I would have to play through the game again to get the footage for these parts, and I'm just too lazy. Once you've defeated all of the dojos, next up is the tournament, where you once again get to use real swords and kill your opponents. Murder everyone and then defeat the final boss, your dad. I enjoyed this game's unique single player mode over some other fighting games and feel like it could be expanded upon. It's still pretty short, and once you get the hang of the fighting, it's not too hard. There are 3 basic moves: attack, block, parry. When you block, you can sidestep or even roll around, which got me through a lot of fights. You don't really lock onto your opponents, so both of you will often swing your sticks away from each other, looking like a couple of dumbasses, but rolls often face you in the right direction and behind them, so it really helps. Unfortunately, I don't really know how to do it, along with some other moves. The game doesn't really teach you, not in single player mode anyway. You can also clash swords with your opponent, and you also have an ultimate move. When this bar fills up and flames come out of it, your special move is ready. Press triangle, and if your enemy hasn't cancelled you, you will unleash a powerful attack that often ends the fight. The one you see here is unbeatable if you pair it with a parry. As for the normal moves, you unlock a range of attacks that you can experiment with by making your own combos. Each combo is 3 different moves, but you can have up to 4 combos assigned to the 4 R buttons, meaning you can start off with a series of slow, hard-hitting moves, but if that isn't working for this particular opponent, then switch it out for a faster combo set. I think this is a pretty interesting concept and would also be a lot of fun in multiplayer, where you can keep them on their feet. Overall, I thought this was a pretty interesting and fun fighting game. I haven't played Bushido Blade and I haven't played the sequel, so I don't know if they are better, but I think this game is a good addition to anyone's PS2 collection. I also thought it was going to be too tough and technical for me, but it's surprisingly arcadey. You can also save your fighter, bring your memory card to a friend's house, and they can tell you to fuck off.
Okay, rookie. Time to get your feet wet. Remember, there are no innocents here. No prisoners, no witnesses.
So I couldn't capture footage of Turok because the PS3 doesn't let you, even with AV output, and I'll be honest, I didn't want to review Turok. It's an average muscly man shooter with dinosaurs in the way. Even though the original was Turok Dinosaur Hunter, this one is more like shoot people and also shoot the planet's wildlife if it's in the way. Based on the previous Turok games and the new one you've already forgotten they announced at the Game Awards, I'd say they have no idea what to do with the Turok series, and I'm not sure why they keep trying with it. I did however see online that people were nostalgic for this game. I found that surprising, but I suppose if this was your first 7th gen shooter, then it might seem pretty good. Some of the guns can be fun, stealthing enemies with a bow and arrow can be satisfying. And the idea of setting dinosaurs onto baddies is a great idea. It's a shame you can only do that though with the shotgun, and it doesn't work in every area. I will sum the 2008 Turok with this clip of a big muscly man wanting pancakes, and a group of big muscly men snickering at the new kid like it's an episode of a teen drama from the late 90s.
Oh man. I think I slept wrong.
I'm tired. This pancakes, man.
Hey, check it out.
Hey, who's eating?
Hella fun.
Somebody get a bucket and mop. We got a new cleaner on board.
Hey, who's the new guy? I like his hair.
Hey, your name's Turok, right? I know all about you.
Officer on deck! Alright, lady.
Replaying message.
It's so cold. It's supposed to snow later tonight, so be careful coming home, okay? I guess you've probably taken off by now. Let me know when you land. Yuri can't wait to see his daddy. Well, I'll see you soon. I love you.
And for the grand finale, I will be reviewing Left Alive for the PS4. A 2019 spin-off from the Frontrunner games. This title is a stealth game set during a war I know nothing about because I've never played a Frontrunner game. You control 3 characters throughout the story, all trying to get out of this hellhole alive, whilst also covering the people who are responsible for it. These 3 characters are Mikhail, a Ruthenian Wanzer pilot, Olga, a police captain and former soldier who left the Gomanian army when she couldn't save her daughter, and lastly, Leonid, a former rebel leader who was accused of murdering Novoslava's liberator, Ruslan Ismailov. I don't want to talk about the plot too much. I feel like I'm not qualified enough to discuss a front mission story. On its own though, I think the game's story is acceptable. I was interested, but I was never really excited. I would say the same goes with the characters too. Although I do really like them, I'm not that interested in seeing them again. Sounds like an odd compliment for a game, but a game's story being just good is a lot better than being boring, or 2008 Turok. When I started playing this game, I was dreading it. Stealth games can be hit or miss depending on how good the NPC's AI is, and I struggled to get past the first part of the game. It doesn't have some stealth game staples, like sneaking up behind an enemy and pressing a button to take down, or grab and choke out, so I was hitting enemies and alerting everyone else there and getting shot from all sides. As I got through the game though, I started to learn how it wanted me to play. You want to collect random junk and craft all sorts of bombs, traps and distractions to get around these patrolling soldiers. There are quite a few options, but I only found a few of them useful. The Molotovs and exploding cans are pretty good for getting rid of enemies. Using empty cans, bottles and smoke bombs are good for moving soldiers out of the way, and enemy sensors show you how many baddies are in the area and where they are. The traps are things like wire traps that can explode, electrocute or incinerate whoever walks through it, IED and RC mines, and barbed wire, which I presume just stops enemies going into an area. I don't know, I never used it. The issue with the traps is there isn't really many areas you can use them. They work best for narrow hallways and doorways, but most of the action happens in a large city sandbox. When you do get the opportunity to use them though, it is funny hearing explosions going off and a dozen guys dying.
Enemy troop deployments have changed. Transmitting information to your device. Enemy troop deployments have changed. Transmitting information to your device. Enemy troop deployments have changed. Transmitting information to your device. Caution. The enemy is approaching. Caution. The enemy is approaching.
Obviously there are weapons to use as well, even if you are encouraged not to use them as much. Honestly, gunning down enemies just needs to be done sometimes. If you have been caught and you run through the map attracting more heat, you might be fucked. So just headshot the guy that saw you and continue sneaking. I think all the guns feel great to use, and as usual the shotgun is the only one you really need. There are some special weapons as well, like sniper rifles, that you can't get ammo for, but it really helps picking off some guys in your way. I said the game encourages you not to use the guns, but there are forced shootout moments, so fuck it. If the game is making you go in all guns blazing, then go ahead and shoot everyone. Of course, if you are low on resources and ammo and you are in the middle of a shootout, then there is no shame in legging it to the finish line. All this action takes place in a few open areas, but mostly in the city of Nova Slava. In fact, I would say it overstays its welcome, but at least you get to know the area and it makes it easier to plan out your missions. Being in an open sandbox means you can go any way around the patrols you want. Maybe you want to risk going straight into a heavy guarded area, or maybe there is a building you can go through, or you could take to the sewers. This makes it so not everybody's playthrough has to be the same. Obviously the city is war torn, but there is a nice level of detail to the area. Not enough though. You probably won't take a break to do some sightseeing, but the game is set at Christmas time, so at least you can enjoy the horrors of war during the most magical time of the year.
The enemy is approaching.
Around the areas you will be exploring is something else I was dreading at first. Survivors that you can escort to the nearest safe spot. These are optional, but do lead to a different ending, but nobody will blame you for avoiding them. However, I didn't mind helping these civilians out. I think some of the best stealth moments for me were the escort missions, but they could have been a lot better. I swear the game says you can do more with your new pals, but I could only get them to stop and go, which is very annoying when they get in the middle of a gunfight. They just follow a preset line and do nothing to help. Even if they have a weapon, they would rather use it on themselves than their enemies around. The worst part of these encounters is the fact you might not be able to help them. You first must chat with them and get them to agree to come with you. If you don't pick the right dialogue options, then you failed. This just means you will have to try and find a guide for the game to find out the right dialogue paths, otherwise it's just trial and error. And it turns out, it isn't very easy finding a guide for Left Alive online. These dialogue options are also present during cutscenes, but these ones are just a waste of time. They might say something different, but ultimately the cutscenes stay the same. It's just a super obvious example of giving players a false sense of choice.
Soldiers require a certain cruelty. Oh, you had ability in abundance, of course, but you never had the right disposition.
Now obviously this is a front mission game, so there are mechs, The Wanzers can be seen being dropped into a map, and they often stand in one place or walk back and forth. If you are on foot, you do not want to be seen by one of these. You will die. Luckily, after stealthing around and helping civilians, you do get a chance to control Wanzers yourself. At first it sort of feels like an award for your work. You've survived this long, here, enjoy this shooting range. You'll get to walk around and face other Wanzers, which is mostly cool. Unfortunately, they aren't the easiest to control. You might bump into a wall or two, and it can take a bit of time to turn around. Also, you can defeat the other mechs and take their weapons, but not only do these sections not last long enough for you to experiment with different loadouts, some of the weapons suck. I didn't get any use out of the pulse rifle, and I found the best setup just to be rockets and shotguns. Looking online, I see a lot of people slagging this game off, and it seems to be about this front mission game not being like a front mission game. Of course it isn't. They didn't even use the front mission name to sell it. It's a spin-off going for something different and giving you an alternative view on those games. I don't think the game is a masterpiece, but games don't need to be a masterpiece for me to enjoy them. There is plenty to do here with higher difficulties, lots to complete and unlock, and new game plus. I say if you see it for cheap, give it a shot and don't compare it to Front Mission or Metal Gear Solid. So there you have it, 4 random games that, despite some minor problems, I would recommend you check out. Even Turok has some appeal. As for the silly birthday challenge, I'm looking forward to playing the 50 Cent game. I've heard it's a pretty fun shooter.
Oh, you wanted to play the 50 Cent game, did you? Did you think I was getting you the Xbox 360 one? Because I'm not. I've got you the Xbox One. Betrayal! Guess whose birthday it is, bitch? It's yours.
This game sucks!